while before Itala SOC Limited can fully resume operations. That's the reality following the freezing of accounts and the damage done to its systems and, of course, customer relationships. The KwaZulu-Natal government has briefed the media on its response and long-term plan for that institution. This follows a court ruling that allows Itala to resume limited operations, though it's still not permitted to accept deposits. The Prudential Authority had flagged concerns around insolvency and regulatory non-compliance. Newzroom Afrika's Nobuhle Modise is tracking that story, and she joins us now live. It's a long way to go, Nobuhle. Good afternoon to you, before Itala can regain the trust of its customers.
Indeed, you are correct, Michelle. You'd remember that when the Prudential Authority, under its repayment administrator, Johannes Kruger, filed that application at the Pietermaritzburg High Court, they brought up issues of insolvency. But you'd know that Itala Bank has been functioning as a bank with, an exemption that they were afforded, which expired in December 2023. But I actually do have with me the Itala CEO, Dr Thulani Vilakazi, who was very emotional when speaking about the ramifications of the actions that took place following, operations grinding to a halt on the 16th of January. He, in fact, took us through that very day and how things came to be the way they are. I want to bring him into the conversation. Thank you very much, Dr. Vilakazi. As I mentioned, you were very emotional about the manner in which things have happened. And this engagement here is quite high level. And for those who are your loyal customers at Itala, they essentially want to know where to from here. Are they getting access to their money? What is going to happen? You've explained to us that it's going to be a long while, using an anecdote of a factory going through regression and how long it takes to get to a point where you are fully operational, as almost similarly to when you began. So maybe take us through, for the viewers, for those who are your clients, where to from here for them.
Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Currently, in terms of our operations, we are able to provide services that are, for instance, the insurance services, where people come in to claim for the insurance part, because the insurance business is not a deposit-taking activity. And also the fact that we have made arrangements with regard to them being able to pay for installments. Because the 16th January date is really painful for most people who are willing to pay for their dues, but they are unable those dues to be paid for. So we made an arrangement with another bank for them to be able to do that. What obviously we are not in control of is the litigation process, of which at this stage I'm unable most of the time to speak directly because of the sub judice matter. However, what we're foreseeing is that if the question was what would then happen for us to prepare on the day when we are successful to obtain the operations. As I explained during the main session, so what then happens, we'll have to assess the entire logistics of our business from the point of supplies, from the point of service providers, and also make sure that we prepare the environment in terms of our branch operations, also make sure that the national payment system, BankServe, and all those platforms where we are able to operate. We anticipate that it would take us almost between 3 to 6 weeks before we're able to have to service the first customer, if we're going to now continue to do the deposit-taking activity. Not because we are unable to do so, but because of what is required for us to validate, to do a lot of a number of things and so on. So that's what I was explaining, because the interpretation of the judgment this weekend to ordinary people, they thought Monday they could rock up to our branches, and we had to explain to them that we can't do that at the moment because there's an appeal by the two entities, and once that appeal is gone through, which we are confident, because this is almost the second time we are winning that argument in court. Thank you so much.
Dr. Vilakazi, I know that this issue is sub judice, as you've mentioned. It's with the Supreme Court of Appeal at the moment, but let's also speak on the statements you made here regarding who depositors are and what a deposit is.
Yes.
You mentioned SASSA grants, you mentioned a number of issues, and encouraging people to actually go and read up on what these things really mean.
Yes, I think that's very important because I think the issue of Itala, like many other institutions, it's become very topical. And, when I studied banking, I was told this is not a difficult subject. It's actually a complex subject. So a deposit is defined as the borrowing that you do from the public. In other words, I get into an agreement with a person who's a public member to say, borrow me your money at this rate and I'll pay you back at this rate. Now, that's what qualifies as a deposit. But if you now look as to what in the bankman space, banking is made up of 4 areas. You've got the savings, you've got your lending, you've got your transacting and your payments. So when we talk about payments, you will have payment of salaries. A salary is due to the recipient that's designated to receive that salary. It's not money that's borrowed into the balance sheet of the bank, so it doesn't qualify as a deposit. Let's take, for instance, the SASSA grant. Government has made sure that people are provided with social relief. It's not a deposit. It's money that's due to them when it arrives, and so on. And then you take, for an example, issues around settlement of bonds, and so on. You want to settle your bond, and then you are giving a settlement amount, because on a daily basis interest is accruing and so on. By the time the bond is settled, you might pay a differential, and there's an amount of money that's due to you as the owner of the bond. That's not money that belongs to the bank, it belongs to you. So it doesn't qualify as a deposit. And I can allude to that. I even shared an experience to say you have these cash money centers in retail shops. They don't have a banking license. They operate under a regime that is called either sponsored by banks or a TPPP, which is third-party payment providers. Hence, you are able to go there and stand and send money to your village and so on. And I think that clarity is quite important, because I think that's where it's been misplaced, as if Itala is having just deposits. There's 4 quadrants of banking. We have a payment space, lending, insurance, and deposits is just one leg.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
That is Dr. Thulani Vilakazi, who is Itala Stock Limited's CEO, and he is answering questions following that ruling by the Pietermaritzburg High Court under Judge Muzi, saying that the bank can now restore its operations but is not allowed to receive any deposits. Back to you, Michelle.